What is up, everybody? Today we're going to be going over the May 24 top Opps Dissected. And so as I tweeted out, May was another really incredible month of trading, really thanks to Roaring Kitty. There were some huge opportunities in GME, AMC, and the craziness in those really is what set off FFIE, which made its own epic move. As I said in my tweet, GME, AMC continues to cement their spot in June as the greatest trading tickers ever. I don't know any tickers that are as active and opportunistic as these have been over the last couple years. They are probably going to be the GOATs for quite some time. As far as these top ops go, I actually ended up crossing out this MNDR because it's one of those Chinese tickers that did implode. But I mean, this was on my list and my list starts off pretty big and I probably should have ended up crossing it out to begin with. But instead I wanted to cover the SMMT on 5-30, the summit biotech news that happened. That's what we're going to do instead, because really some of these Chinese tickers, they can have some fake outs, some of them bounce, some of them don't. We saw the tail risk in ZJYL. So nevertheless, we're doing a switcheroo. Now let's dive into it. GME and AMC, those were active the whole month. I ended up doing a super long 3-hour deep dive.
We're going nuts over here, guys. This is probably worth a short as well. And again, you know, same system using prior bar highs.
So at least for the month of May, I don't have anything more to add. I'll cover these tickers again for the month of June, just because these have been active again, but ultimately refer to that for those. So what I will touch on is Oracle on May 14th. And what ended up happening was the information came out with a headline that Oracle had a $10 billion deal with Musk's XAI. The reason why I wanted to cover this is because, one, the information is a great source of news. I know we've seen a couple headlines from them and we've covered a couple of those before. I think most notable on the top of my mind is that there was that PDD Pindodo headline a couple months ago. So this was another one that ended up moving the stock. Obviously AI is hot right now. Big multi-billion-dollar deals are hot right now. And this is the type of headline that you really want to go for, especially because Oracle really isn't, it's not as if it's the top ticker that comes to mind as far as the AI craze. So when you hear that they're starting to really get big deals like that, okay, that is a good headline. As usual, I really push the concept that simple systems work very, very well. And there's a couple things I would point out. So first of all, prior bar lows held exceptionally well. Amazing, amazing, amazing move. Then the other thing is look at the volume that occurred exactly as this headline came out. That volume is massive, massive, massive. It totally dwarfs all the other bars prior that day. Like literally you can't even see the volume before then. That alone is such a massive tell that this headline is big. Generally, Oracle is not that volatile of a stock. For this to shoot up about 2 points in the first bar and do that kind of volume, that is all the tell you need to really kind of go for this one. The reason why I wanted to cover this is a lot. You know, the information strikes again. It's a good source worth paying attention to. Prior bar lows is a simple system that works very well. The volume on this was insane. When it has that kind of reaction, that is something you want to even just size up in. So now we will go to Paramount, P-A-R-A, on 5-14. And so why am I bringing up this one? So this ticker had been having all sorts of merger headlines. Essentially, Sony and Apollo were interested in making a bid for the company. One thing that hasn't come up so much is CNBC's David Faber tends to break a large amount of news.
All of which has led to what I am told is at least, quote, a rethinking of the Paramount bid.
It's something you really want to pay attention to. There's different speed feeds out there. Like if you're watching on TV, TV is exceptionally delayed. I don't really know what's the fastest source for this anymore because I've been out of the lightning fast game. But a lot of people try and get the fastest source for this. Yeah, ultimately though, even if you're late, ultimately this held prior bar highs pretty well and was a nice move. And I'd also say that this is highlighting the importance of taking really good notes as far as what is moving these tickers and all the MNDA, not MMA, although that would be fun, updates on these things. Reasons why I'm bringing this up: simple system works. David Faber of CNBC is also important, and important to keep notes on the context behind some of these headlines. FFIE, extensively addressed in this GME AMC video. If you did not see it, it is towards the end.
And now this is where I'm starting to think game on.
I think I might have timestamped the video. I don't really recall, but definitely check that out. That was pretty good coverage in there, and it was also a really, really big opportunity. But again, I did a deep dive on these, so it's well worth the deep dive on tickers like GME, AMC, and FFIE. These trades had huge opportunities multiple times and are complex enough that it's not going to do it justice if I do just a 3-4 minute overview, which is why I did a 3-hour deep dive. So definitely just go to that. Okay, so GTBP, this is interesting for a couple reasons. This is on 5-21. Interesting for a couple reasons. So first of all, this stock had run up the prior day. This is a low float runner. And so then we ended up having an offering early in the morning as this was ripping, kind of about 15 minutes before the open. And so a couple details. So first of all, this was a 740,000 share offering priced at $4.35. That offering is massive. I don't have the exact numbers anymore just because obviously they changed and everything else, but I believe that was on something like a 700,000 share float. Essentially, they offered up more than the existing float, and the price they did it at is really, really low. I'm still going to listen to my prior bar stop from the simple system, but as I'm going to get to in this next chart, it's really worth thinking about this as potentially a swing as well, because so often, like an offering of that magnitude and price that shitty, that can really crush stocks like this. I mean, you're essentially doubling the float, if I'm not mistaken somewhere. The other thing I would say is like, that's another, I don't use dilution tracker, but it is very highly regarded. And I think it can be helpful in a lot of this stuff. Once you have an offering like that, this is a stock that it's the likelihood that this thing just gets absolutely crushed back to where it came from is very, very high for me. And I think that's where you can consider swinging some stock in a couple of ways. One, you can potentially use the break of prior bar lows on the daily, or you can, under the headline, just short and do big picture prior day highs or something. And essentially, I want to point out that this stock on the daily ended up holding prior bar highs very, very, very well. So again, simple systems do work when we're applying them to the right places. And not that I want to interpret news, but that offering was very, very, very big. Okay, so now we're going to touch Summit. And this was, really kind of, I was convinced to do this by Neil Trades on Twitter. I do think this is kind of a better choice than that Chinese piece of crap, just because there's points to be made here in teaching lessons that I haven't covered in other places. So what happened here? So SMMT Summit, they do a cancer drug. They were expecting data. And so this drug competes with Merck's Keytruda. So this ended up getting halted. You can't really see the halt on the chart unless you look down at the time, but this stock was halted. And so what happens is this stock halts, but then now knowing that Merck has Keytruda, which is a similar drug, what's so interesting is we're going to jump to this chart of Merck. Merck was melting on that headline about this data. So why is that important? Because Summit is halted, right? The only thing traders can do to express their view is trade Merck. And so generally, Merck has a market cap of $300 billion. It is a massive, massive, massive large pharma. This $300 billion stock is melting a couple percent, really more. I mean, I think we were down probably even close to that looks like 3-4%. For a stock of that size, that is a huge move, and that is real deal volume. So one way to think of this, which is not really a perfect way, but it's worth at least using it as a hack, right? So if Merck is down, call it 2% to be conservative, let's just call it 2%, that is a $6 billion market cap hit when Summit was halted at a $2 billion market cap before that halt. So when that comes in, you can do some simple back of the envelope math and say, holy shit, this stock could really, really have some legs. And we do open around 6, and then we just immediately go limit up and keep going to close to $10, and then we even rally into the close. The main point I want to use is simply that we can use Merck there as a proxy and do some type of napkin market cap math, and that makes kind of the Summit post halt pretty interesting as a buy. That's kind of something we've never really talked about on any of these before, and that's why I felt it was so important. I don't think this was some crazy op. I think it was a good op. It kind of takes a little bit of a leap of faith, but nevertheless wanted to bring that up here. Okay, so now we're going to go to Caesar on May 31st, and this was kind of a 2-for-1 that I wanted to bring up. So news comes out at around 11 Eastern that Icon takes a stake in the company. So Icon, of course, is a famous activist hedge fund investor. So there's some activist investors where when they take stakes, the stock essentially will go up much more than otherwise, because a lot of people believe that these activist investors can stir things up and unlock volume, and a lot of people want to chase them into that. Nelson Peltz is another one that comes to mind. And so what you want to do is you want to be aware of who the major hedge fund players shares are, or who, if they take a stake, has the ability to really move some of these stocks. Obviously, Buffett will move stocks, Ackman, Einhorn, Icon, Peltz, those are some to name a few. There's probably a couple more than that, but you want to start databasing those. And so Icon going potentially activist on a ticker is a big deal and definitely does move it. This stock ended up taking off like a rocket. Prior bar lows did work very well. So with someone like Icon, who is a renowned activist investor, it is kind of assumed generally when he takes these stakes that he is looking to stir things up and unlock value. And so what ended up happening later on is, again, CNBC for the win. It comes out on CNBC that Icon took this stake, but he did not have any activist intentions.
But he made it clear that he likes the management, he likes the CEO, and that at least today, that there are no plans for activism in this name.
So that is a good short if you can be early to it. That doesn't mean this is going to go all the way back, because again, it's still bullish that Icon took a large stake in it, but it essentially lost some of that premium for the fact that he's not going to go activist, and that isn't kind of the specialty of what Icon normally does. Or sorry, the activism is. So when you find out that it's not activism for the stake, it tends to pair some of those gains. So that's kind of 2 points I wanted to raise there. So then the final one I wanted to touch on is the SAM, Boston Beer Company. Couple points to make on this. So headline comes out, Suntory, which is a Japanese alcohol conglomerate, essentially early stage talks to buy. This stock went super, super high to the limit up. So in general, I wouldn't think this would have gone so far, but it did. It was hard to get stock before the halt. Then after, like when this is opening up at above 300, that's like a 10% plus move. Like I personally don't have much interest in buying there at that point. Like that's just a really damn big move. And especially, not that I've delved too deep into this and parsed too much of these headlines for you all, but when like Boston Beer is not a tech company. It's not a biotech. It's not something super sexy. And Suntory is in early stage talks. Like that was a hell of a damn move it made. So I do not want to chase this one. The other thing that's interesting though that I will touch on is reading the box is important. I know some people say that there's no edge in the box or reading the tape and all that. But there is essentially a bats buyer driving this thing. And so that's kind of why I think this stock went as far as it did. So nevertheless, the point with this is, you know, big headline. I do not want to chase that long post that halt. Yes, it did work, but like that's a pretty damn big move for this. So yeah, we're going to keep this video fairly brief just because I did such a large GME AMC FFIE review. I've got some other great content coming up and some big stuff being released. Full speed ahead on Magnum Opus. So thank you all. Let me know if any questions and appreciate the support.